He must have got really scared because he started trying to say a safe word, but he couldn't remember. So he just starts yelling, the word, the word, the word. So the guys drug him out of the van at a car wash in broad daylight and power washed his ass right there. In the one guy that wanted us to like suspend him from like the ceiling and then use him as a like a human pinata. Their lawyers went over my case with a fine tooth comb and they're like, there's nothing we can do. I was like, the only thing we can do is attack the credibility of the CI. You know, I had covered all the physical bases, but I hadn't thought about, my mental.
Yeah, like the internal stuff.
Yeah,
like
my mental health. Yeah, my mental
I
health.
guess. So you...
Now I don't wanna do it, but I ain't afraid to die. Lord knows I ain't perfect. I ain't trying to tell a lie. It's understood and I ain't hearing all that woulda, coulda, shoulda. Trying to say you want peace, then you burn the
It was my God's honest that I was all about a non-violent approach, but it seems truth is a non-topic.
Who was it that was running around that day with the chainsaw? That was you? Dude, you scared me so bad that day. At one point, the guy he got loose and he was running around.
Oh, yeah.
I remember you chasing him around with the chainsaw and it was on. And I remember you swinging around and you hit a vending machine and like sparks flew off of it. And I was like,
Oh my God.
what if you would have hit the guy with that? I'm
What
like,
if you would have hit him? Oh my God, what the...
It's like the Alec Baldwin with the gun thing. It happens sometimes.
Baldwin lawyers.
Dude, they gave it to me. I didn't think it was a real chainsaw. I just I seriously like knew that I was this far from him. Like I waited till he ducked down, and you know what I'm saying.
You are
okay.
Would be like not the one I would trust running around.
No, I'm good with that, man. I could roundhouse kick like this close to your face.
Are
like
terrible though.
I know, but they're just big and funny looking.
Thank
But
God that didn't turn out.
But no, that one was fun, and I had to keep getting extra I had to keep flexing on him extra because we had to tie him up with a rope. And it's even if you look close in the news coverage, I'm doing that for a really long time because, like, I can't tie knots for shit.
Yeah.
It's like a block in my brain. I can't. I know one fishing knot. That's it. So, like, I'm just taking this thing around him, and it's like he's losing the momentum, the intensity.
That's probably
so I'm having to scare him other ways. I'm having like
that one was hard too because he specifically requested that type of rope. And we never use rope because it's inconvenient,
And it was like thick rope. It was like fucking something you'd use to hold a damn pirate ship to a fucking dock, dude. It was weird, man. And so if he wasn't the weirdest, like, who's the weirdest?
I don't know, man.
Or at least one that people will watch and go, "Oh my God, dude!"
Besides Butterball Boy.
Yeah. That one is pretty fucked. But
that shit's hilarious.
Well, there was one guy that wanted us to like suspend him from like the ceiling and then use him as a human pinata, like he was going to be dressed like we were supposed to dress as characters and he was supposed to be some kind of character and we were supposed to beat the crap out of him like a pinata. But anyway, the weirdest one that we did that comes to mind, but I'm sure there's something weirder if I really think about it. There was this one guy that he was from New York and he came here and I had this blue Econoline van, and he had a 36-hour kidnapping that he was paying for. 30 hours. And I guess that's why this stands out because it was the longest kidnapping I've ever done, And I had planned it out, but I guess I didn't really realize how long 36 hours was going to be, just out.
It's a long time, dude.
You know what I mean? Having this guy with you the whole time, you know what I mean, in this van for 36 hours.
Oh.
Well, we had a lot of time to kill. And at one point, uh, this was in the summertime, we're driving around the van, me and three henchmen, plus the guy who was all tied up in the back of the van. And it was around lunchtime and I was really hungry. I was like, you guys want to get some lunch? So we went to A&W with the guy all tied up and duct taped in the van. And at A&W, they come up to your window.
Oh yeah, they do.
Little car
Yeah.
And I gave him my ordered for everybody, and we got the guy a cheeseburger. And the girls didn't see him, but they brought our food and everything through the window. And so we're all eating there at A&W. We let the guy one hand free so he could eat, and he made a mess. He got it all over himself. And we were mad at him, so they started smacking him in the head. You moron, So he had mustard and ketchup all over himself. So I had the idea to go to a car wash, power wash him. So the guys drug him out of the van at a car wash in broad daylight and power washed his ass right there in the
all
bay.
Tied up and everything.
Yeah, right there in the bay.
Holy
power washed
shit.
him. And we were laughing. So at that point, it went off the rails a little bit. And so I'm thinking, let's just wing this for the rest of the day. Because I know what's happening tonight and tomorrow, but we still like all day to kill. So we drove to Pine Knob. There was a big concert going on. And this was at a time where I had like signage, like magnetic logos and stuff for vehicles. So we slapped on the Extreme Kidnapping logos on the van, so everyone could see them clearly. And we went to Pine Knob and we're in the parking lot, and you know how people party out in the parking lot,
Yeah,
for concerts, So we pulled a guy out, and we had an office chair in the van. We put him in the office chair, duct taped him all the way up to this chair, so he's like mummified in this chair.
that's good advertisement right there.
And we're out there, and the van's got the signs on, and people are walking by like, what the hell? And they come up and talk to us, and I tell them, extreme kidnapping, blah, 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 So
that's like an ultimate billboard, dude.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
We just took advantage of an opportunity, and people wanted to get their picture taken with the guy. So chicks were sitting in his lap, and we're taking pictures of them.
Oh man.
It was pretty funny. That part was pretty cool. And so after that, we took him to a seedy motel in Pontiac. Like it was a roach motel. And we got two rooms right next to each other. We tried to, like, we were messing with him. Like we taped Wonder Bread to his face and his ears. Made him do push-ups and stuff like that.
Oh, I remember that.
And they took him outside and made him run around, and there were hookers outside and all this other stuff. I mean, it was a really
Fun times.
But the next day, we took him out in the woods because he did something that pissed us off, and we said we were gonna bury him out in the woods. So we got shovels and we went out in the woods. This was like in North Oakland County, and
The woods in Pontiac.
I went deep into the woods in the van as far as I could go, and the guys took him out of the van and started walking him down a trail. And when they found a spot that had like soft earth, I guess you could say, we started digging. So he dug and he dug and he dug, and I mean they were out there for a couple hours. So I don't know how deep the hole was, but I know it was hot that day. And the one guy was the guy who ultimately ratted me out. Him and his partner had him doing the digging, right? So he was in the hole digging his own grave, right?
Oh.
And at some point, I guess he got so hot and he just was tired of them talking, yelling at him and stuff, and I guess he just snapped and he threw a shovel full of dirt in the guy's face, right?
Oh, shit.
my bodyguard guy,
Oh,
who ultimately
fuck him, he
snitched me out.
deserved it.
But this guy was kind of a hothead too, though. So
Oh
he
God.
had a baseball bat with him, and it was a wiffle ball bat. But it was all taped up with duct tape, so it would be thicker. It couldn't really hurt anybody, but if you beat somebody with it, they know they're getting whooped on.
Yeah, you feel that shit.
So he jumps in the hole and starts beating this guy like mercilessly with the wiffle ball bat all taped up. And I mean, he was going to town on him. Like he was not sparing. He wasn't even pretending not to be pissed. He was just pummeling this guy. And the guy got scared. He must have got really scared because he started trying to say a safe word, but he couldn't remember.
That happened when I did one. They couldn't remember the word.
So he just starts yelling, the word, the word, the
word. The word of what, God?
So the guy.
So his script wasn't weird. It just ended up weird because it got all like freestyled.
And that's a long time, man.
Yeah,
Seriously, that's a long time to have like little gaps to fill in and shit. Wow.
And there was other weird stuff that happened after that, but I would say that 36-hour kidnapping probably takes the cake for the weirdest.
But we had that overweight, like, I don't know, 50-year-old truck driver guy. And
the one in the basement?
We took him to the basement. It was at a hotel at first. A motel, hotel.
Is that the one that you hit the guy in the face with a roll of quarters?
Yeah, but it started with a sausage, bro. Like, he wanted us to beat him with the sausage.
Yeah.
Right. I remember that one. Yeah.
I forgot about the roll of quarters. Oh, shit.
I think it was a roll of nickels, actually.
But... Or maybe it was nickels, yeah.
And
I was fucking throwing them at him, too. But this guy, this is one of those where I felt like, I don't know, man, there's some kind of gay element to it. You want guys to muscle up and kidnap you and tie you up, hit you with a sausage.
Yeah. There was kind of gay. There was definitely something gay about it because, like, remember in his duffel bag, he had all those gay pictures in there, and we were like,
"Oh yeah." What the hell? I don't know if that was like part of his, because I think the whole thing was like, weren't we supposedly selling him into like the sex trade or something? I think that's what we were doing. Man,
no, that was a different guy.
No, that was a different guy.
Yeah, because
what was the point of this guy's thing?
No, because the one you're thinking of, we sold a guy to Percy Sweetwater. Remember?
Oh yeah,
the pimp.
That's Tone, the fucking Prince impersonator I showed you.
Oh my God, that's so.
See, that's what people need to know, man. Is like you had character act, like you had method actors and fucking props and storylines and
that shit.
Yeah, man, it was cool as shit, honestly.
It's a damn shame that show never got to.
It's like you're being the goon, and then Adam comes back later. You're like, so how did the pimp do? Oh, the pimp did great. All right, cool.
Yeah,
like it really was fun, but like that's why I asked if you were getting these people off of like weird websites and shit, because just the strange things like the penny loafers, the sausage, the this, the that. It was very specific stuff. Like these people wanted really strange, specific things.
Well, humans are weird and depraved.
They always forget their safe word, though. That guy did. And like I want to say that I was beating him and he kept saying words and like, they weren't the right word. He kept getting it wrong. And I'm thinking, and then here's the weird thing with this is like they might screw with you and like act like they want you to stop, but you know what I'm saying?
Right,
so like
it's part of the whole play.
Yeah, they're almost like trying to outsmart you sometimes. It's like this weird thing where it's just fun getting into the character, and I think they do too. Like the guy we did down there in Louisiana, that was an easy one. Like, but he would do that. He was actually trying to play me and the other guy against each other. I was like,
are you talking about the British guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, the British guy, that was the one that we ended really soon because he tapped out really, really soon. Mm-hmm. It was great for us because we didn't want to, we wanted to cut it short as soon as possible, you know?
Yeah. And but he was happy though. Like he wasn't like, oh, I cut this short, it sucks. Like he actually liked it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't like jip him out of time or anything. It's just that he was prepared in his mind. He was going to be able to take a beating and get slapped and whooped on, and that's what he was prepared for. But I flipped the script on him and stuck his ass on the floor, on a hard, cold floor, to sit there for a couple hours. That's what made him tap out.
Yeah, I forgot. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, we're fucking with him mentally. I forgot all about that.
Because
it really did break him down.
Because back in...
Were we going to waterboard that guy?
We never had to waterboard him.
No, but didn't he want that initially?
I think that was on the table. But I just was looking for, you know, to change it up on him because I knew he wanted a more physical, you know, he was going to, be the tough guy, you know, I taking a beating, blah, 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 you know. But I'm like, he's not prepared for a change in his environment at all, you know.
Yeah.
So, and like I said, back in 2009, I took that kidnap for ransom course with a real security professional guy from like an international security consulting firm, and he taught us about changing the environment to, you know, get what you want out of somebody if you're doing it or something, you know. And that guy looked ripe for that because he was an older guy, and you know, you don't want to be sitting on some cold, hard floor, handcuffed to a.
Yeah,
he had a really nice suit on. It seemed like he was used to being pretty comfortable.
Sitting on the floor of the drunk tank for like
exactly. He was used to being very comfortable.
Oh God, I just want to get out of here. Fuck, I'll do anything. Oh God, let me out. And then those assholes.
That's how cops get a lot of people to rat, man. They just make you just want it over with.
You just want the fuck out of there.
Or rat or give yourself up. You just want it over with. Yeah. You're not even thinking. Yeah, like I just want this to stop. Is basically what it is. And it's crazy.
That's why people give false confessions.
Yeah, you give a false confession just to make it go away so you can, you know, have them stop. But yeah, like you had the show, and like the whole time that you're working on them with the show, are you awaiting sentencing and they don't know about that? Or
no, they knew about it. They were confident that the show was getting made one way or another. And they're like, okay, this guy's got some legal problems, but this show is going to be so dope that we'll figure it out when that happens. You know what I mean? And sentencing was in August of 2006. And I signed with them at the end of 2005. So we had 8 solid months of production that we were doing shows, making episodes and shooting stuff and doing pool parties and all this crazy stuff. And this answers one of your earlier questions. Did I have somebody to run the business while I was cut? If I went to prison, which I did, I didn't have anybody to run the day-to-day operations or actually do kidnappings, but the production company was going to take control and keep the business alive, so to speak, until I got out.
Okay.
Or invested in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In other words, they'd keep the phone on, have somebody answer the phone, take my business phone calls. That's, you know. And another thing they did for me was they hired their lawyers to go over my case. And
wow.
Yeah, they had good lawyers. Like
that's pretty cool.
How much would this have cost if I had paid for this? It's like 25 grand right off the bat.
Wow.
And I'm like, whoa. So, and their lawyers went over my case with a fine-tooth comb, and they're like, there's nothing we can do. I was like, your partner gave a statement.
Yeah.
Snitch tapes. The only thing we could do is attack the credibility of the CI because he's got a prior criminal record. And then he threatened to kill me during pre-trial. My bodyguard threatened to kill me numerous times.
Oh, wow.
The prosecutor didn't believe it until I brought him proof, and they were like, oh, this is a problem, you know? So
yeah,
this is a problem. So they talked to him, and that stopped. they thought that they might be able to use that to get me off, but ultimately it just didn't, you know.
Yeah, not that any amount of time in prison is good, but I mean, it wasn't a long period. It was probably the best. Well, I mean, you freaked it, you know, in your own way too.
Right.
Like you had briefly mentioned in the one short that we're going to put out.
Oh, we'll get deeper into that.
You know, that paper that you fill out, you know, and they say, do you do drugs, you drink? Yeah, it's basically like a PSI. And, you know, you're telling them I got drug problems, I got this problem, that problem. So you finish those programs basically, and it's going to shave some time for you, it sounds like.
Well, that was the idea. That was the plan.
Right.
That program can get you a year off your sentence, and it's the only program like it, you know, and it's the only one in the feds that can get you out like a whole year off your sentence, you know. But it's up to a year, and it depends on when you go in, how long your sentence is, and just because you started prison today doesn't mean you start the program today.
Right.
And last 9 months. So if they're into the 6th month of the program, when you get there, you got to wait for 3 months for that class to end, where you can start. And in my case, I did 6 months. Then I got to a camp to get the program. I had to wait another 2 months for the next class to start. And then what was the deal? Somehow I gotta remember exactly what happened, but somehow they managed to make it so that I wouldn't get any time off, even if I had class. Even the administrator of that curriculum said, "You're not going to get any time off. And this class is really hard, so you might as well just not do it." And I was like, "Yeah, it does sound like it's going to suck. All that for nothing." She's like, "Yeah, so you don't want to do it then?" I'm like, "No." She's like, "All right, well, we're going to send you back to the prison you just left." I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa."
What the fuck?
Because I wanted to get the hell out of that place. And
yeah, was that the one in like Minnesota that was like freezing cold and like just terrible?
Oh.
Yeah, that was the high security facility.
Oh, yeah, that would have been shitty.
And that not a good situation there. But so that was my only impetus to take the program at that point, was because I wasn't getting the time off, but it would keep me at camp and send me back, you know. And being at camp is way better than being at a high security facility. So I took the program anyway, and I still managed to turn lemons into lemonade, because at the tail end of the class, I was able to negotiate with my team. You have something called a team. It's a counselor, a case manager, and the unit manager. I was able to negotiate 6 months of home confinement instead of 6 months of halfway house time.
Oh, nice.
Like 3 months of halfway house time. But things were changing at that time, and I found out a way to request the full 6 months if you do it the right way. And people were getting it. So I was like, well, let's just flip that a little bit and just make it 6 months of home confinement, which was doable. People could do it if you asked and did it the right way. And I had a perfect, record at camp, didn't get any trouble, completed the course. And so they're like, okay, this guy deserves it. Plus he got stiffed on the year off his sentence.
Yeah, right.
Least we can do is give him, 6 months of home confinement,
So you didn't have to go to a halfway house at all then?
Yes, I did.
Oh, you did still?
When I got out of prison, it was, I think, July 8th, I took a train from Denver to Chicago, and then from Chicago to Detroit. They take you right to the halfway house for processing.
Oh.
There, I had my friends were coming to pick me up, but the halfway house was like, "What are you talking about? Home confinement? There's no record of that." And I'm like, "Trust me, I got it." And they're like, "No, trust me, you're staying here."
Damn.
So the next day I went to talk to the head guy there, and he didn't believe me at all. He didn't believe me. I was like, come on, there's got to be a way to check this.
Right.
I got paperwork on this. So ultimately I just show him the paperwork, and he still was like, no, this doesn't matter, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, it's from the Bureau of Prisons.
Yeah, right.
They're have custody of the situation, you know. So what happened is he double checked everything. I was right, but he held me there for 2 weeks while checking on things.
Of course.
So
Exercising a little power is what he's doing.
Well, thank God.
Oh, this guy was a real dick, and
halfway.
Yeah, I was there for I think 12 or 13 days, and then finally I got released to home confinement. So
gotcha.
Did you like when you whether it was Minnesota or Colorado, were both of those facilities kind of federal facilities where you were locked up with guys with similar convictions, or was it a plethora of different types of offenders?
Well, at the high security facility, you're with anybody and everybody. There was a U.S. Marshal in there. There was the big the shot caller for the Aryan Brotherhood.
The guy who's on YouTube.
No, this guy was number 3 at the time, and then the number 2 guy was there too.
Oh.
I wonder if it's one of the guys. There's a couple of really big guys in the Aryan Brotherhood that have like podcasts and shit now.
Yeah.
And tell their
I don't
stories.
know. All I know is when this guy was transferred there, they shut down the whole prison. Everyone had to go back
to
in their cells, because he was that dangerous, you know, or they considered him, you know, a security risk. So everyone
got to be the guy I'm thinking of.
Probably.
I'll have to show him to you later, and you could tell me if it's the same dude.
But at a facility like this, there's, you know, gangsters, murderers, you know, big time fraud guys, banksters. You know, like one of my cellies was the vice president of General Electric.
Really?
What? Embezzling, probably, or something
Bob Watson.
Like that.
His name was Bob Watson.
Bob Watson sounds name.
His boss was Jack Welch.
Huh?
Wow, no kidding.
Shit.
You know, that's an interesting story there too. There's a story there too, but I won't talk about it. You know.
Yeah, we'll have to save that one.
And then because like you were telling me about some pretty interesting people, like the one guy you said it would be cool to tell his story. Was that in Colorado, like at the camp thing?
Now at camp there was very interesting people there too, but nobody that I would consider like really dangerous. You know what I mean? Like millionaires, a lot of rich guys, a lot of, you know, interesting people, but like some of the people there probably didn't even belong in prison in the first place. You know what I mean? But some of them just ran afoul of banking laws or some obscure procedure that they didn't know was legal. You know what I'm saying? Stuff
yeah.
But I met some really cool dudes at camp too. A guy named Adam Resnick, he wrote a book on. You can actually pull up his footage on NBC. He was in Vegas and he lost $8 million on the blackjack table.
Oh, you told me about this guy.
And the dude is hilarious. He's a genius also. Like he's in Mensa and all that stuff. And me and him were good buddies at camp. And we were cellies too. Another guy was Michael Gallardi. He was the strip club kingpin of Las Vegas. Like he owned all the major strip clubs, like Cheetahs, you know. And he was a trip too. He was also my cellie. And then. Yeah, there's just a lot of interesting people at those places. Like you.
Oh, hell yeah.
Who is the guy you mentioned recently when we were talking? I think he was some kind of drug trafficker from Cuba or something like that.
Cuba, yeah. His nickname was Cuba.
Oh.
His real name was Jorge, and he was from Cuba. He was one of the original Mariolitos, as they say, because
basically people who don't know, like that would be like Tony Montana.
Yeah.
Like the
exactly.
original, yeah, okay, the original Exile guys.
He was the prototype for Tony Montana. He was living in Miami. He was sprung from Castro's prisons and shipped over
So that's
part of the Cuban crime wave, because Castro emptied his prisons as like a politically motivated attack against Jimmy Carter at the time.
Yeah.
And, but for him, it was like coming to the promised land.
Right.
It was
Yeah.
all machine guns and kilos for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was down there blasting machine guns and selling kilos, and that was his thing. And then
Oh yeah, shit.
at some point, he must have joined the Vice Lords, because he ended up being like I want to say like a 3-star general. I think that's how they.
Really?
Oh damn.
Yeah, but when I met him, he retired from gang activity, and apparently you can do that because when a current 3-star guy hit the art, they met each other, and it was all good. They were friends and they respected him and treated him like an OG and all that, So, but he had an amazing story, and he wrote like 3 or 4 books in prison, and one of them was published, and it became like a prison classic of sorts. Like a lot of prisoners would read this book, because it was such a good book. You know what I mean? And he was a talented portrait artist. Like that was his side hustle. Like he would do portraits of other inmates or their wives or their kids.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And he made a lot of money doing that. Cool guy, super cool. And he was my cellie for about 2 months when I was at the high security joint in Minnesota.
Did you ever have any of these guys try to get you involved in like whether it was an escape or like some kind of hustle or a scam or anything in prison?
Well, nothing serious like that. There was like, some minor smuggling, just like holding a guy's stamps for him,
Right. Yeah.
stuff like that, or getting something from the hospital into general population, little things for favors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Nothing like major, like escapes or anything like that. I would not have been interested in anything.
Right.
Now there was one guy who was a bank robber. He was trying to get me to get his cash and do something with it. When I got out, he was gonna like cut me in on it if I like invested it or something. I don't remember all the details right now, but he was a real bank robber, and he claimed that he was the gentleman bandit, and I found out later that he wasn't, but his paperwork looked like he was because he'd robbed over 30 banks. I mean,
Wow.
Damn.
no joke. I mean, he was like the real deal, like 30 banks. And I'm reading it, I'm like, holy shit, I might be who he says he is, but I found out much later on it wasn't him, but he was like a top tier bank robber.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty damn successful.
But
now, since that guy Johnny Mitchell is making the rounds online and making a career out of this, I gotta ask. I mean, I already know the answers to a lot of this, but this guy talks about, immediately when you enter a facility like that, you got to fight the biggest guy you see, man, for your respect.
Straight up movie.
Or you're just going to be, everybody's bitch the whole time you're there. The first place you go to is a maximum security place, which is, what he's describing. Did you ever feel
like you had to do that?
Anything like that? Or did you feel like you had to become a skinhead?
Yeah, like you're pressured into being in a gang.
No, not at all. And like most things, I did a lot of research before I went to prison because I was scared and I wanted to
for sure.
do and what not to do, And that whole starting a fight the first day in, that's a myth. I mean, that's bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, anyone I've ever talked to.
There may be some situations in state prisons,
right,
or a detention facility where something like that could happen, but not in the feds. Not in the feds. That's not even a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a thing in all prisons. It's just it could happen to you in a state prison that has a lot of gangs.
Right.
You're going to have to choose a side, and in some cases that might actually help you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But generally speaking, that's the dumbest thing to do, and it's only going to get you in more trouble. It's going to increase your security, your custody level, and you're going to get written up right off the bat. You know?
Who the fuck wants that?
It's just dumb. You know what I mean? So.
I mean, granted, you were in federal facilities, so I mean, I'm sure things operate a little differently. But I mean, people say that the feds it's a lot better place to be than to be
in the States.
Yeah, than to be in the States, or the what do you call it, the independently.
Oh, the private prisons.
Yeah, the private prisons and stuff like that. So you get a little better treatment in the feds, I take it.
It's different. I mean, it still sucks, but it's
right.
better in certain ways. Like I would say it's cleaner. It's generally speaking cleaner. It's depending upon there's certain pressures that don't exist, like having to join gangs.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is in there so separate from everyone else that it's like if there is a gang activity, they just deal with other gangsters. They don't care about anybody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Trying to recruit you to their gang. You know what I mean? It's just, it doesn't happen like that in the feds. There's no pressure. The only person you should, whose back you should have is your cellie. That's it.
Right.
Cellie, protect your space. That's all you have to worry about. You don't have to go looking for trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Fights. That's stupid. Mind your business. That's what you do. You mind your business.
Now, did you see anybody getting stuck when you were locked up? Getting stabbed, getting any of that crazy shit happen in the feds?
I've seen a couple fights. I haven't seen any stabbings. A couple fights. I saw one guy at Mainline get smacked in the face with a lunch tray. I mean, that was the guy got smacked in the face with a lunch tray. I mean, it like blew his hair back and everything.
Ooh.
But aside from that, just some fights that got broke up pretty quickly too, because if the cops see, they usually hit the deuces or whatever, like they say, and they lock down the yard and everyone gets on the ground and all that. So there's not a lot of people. A lot of the stuff that happened somewhere else. You don't see it. You know what I mean? Like you hear about it the next day, or you hear about it at lunch or something like that. But I didn't really see too much. One interesting thing at Rochester in Minnesota, because it was a medical facility, and it's there's like 3 medical facilities in the federal system. There's one in Butner, I think that's North Carolina. There's one in Rochester. I think there's one in Kentucky. There was one in Texas. I don't know if that one still exists anymore. But anyway, you have all security classifications at those, and so there's all kind of different people there. And a lot of people have disabilities and, wheelchairs and electric scooters and stuff like that. And you wouldn't believe how many handicapped people are actually in prison. Like, I was, I'm handicapped too. So it's like, I had an electric scooter in Rochester.
No shit.
Oh, no shit.
I couldn't walk that far because it was too far to walk, because my mobility has decreased over time. So back in 2007, I had a scooter to get around. Well, apparently, drive-by shankings were a thing at this prison. Like
Like
what?
roll by shankings? That's crazy.
drive-by shankings,
Oh.
guys would get
You're
like
rolling by a guy and just
exactly. But
No
first,
shit.
they would scrape the toilet bowl with the shank. Then they drive by and stick you, and then they zoom away. So they had drive-by shankings at that prison.
Wow.
no shit. That's
That's
crazy.
nuts.
It was so like yeah, for people that don't know, your thing is you have MD, right?
Yeah, I had a mild form of muscular dystrophy. There's like
Okay.
different types. The one I have is called FSH. So like I can still drive, and I don't need any adaptive equipment. I can do pretty much everything. It's just that I can't walk far. My balance isn't that good. It's gotten worse since 2007, obviously, but it hasn't really stopped me from doing, day-to-day activities, and I can still.
Right. You're not trying to play in the NHL or nothing like that. So it's
No, that was never an option. That was never an option.
I mean, so like it was the second place that you went, was that also a medical based facility or no?
No,
Okay,
it was
between
just,
the two, like so it isn't just in the medical ones, but basically in federal prisons, you're not getting that whole like big gang thing and all of that, probably because of the guys that are getting put in there are from all different reaches of society.
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
right, and they don't put a lot of gangsters together. There might be a lot of gang members on a yard, but they're all from different gangs. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
So there's not a lot of opportunity for more than like 3 or 4 guys to click up. So it's like, what are you going to do with that? So
Right.
Yeah.
It sounds
But,
like, you got a lot of guys who are just trying to get through their time because
Well, yeah.
they're essentially regular guys like we
Just wanna
talked
get
about in
back
the other
their
one.
life.
Yeah, they were just like greedy at the
Mhm.
time. They have no plans. Well, one thing is, were you ever locked up with any like Cosa Nostra or because I know a lot of those guys are in the white collar crime now, the organized crime guys, whether it be Cosa Nostra or Russian. Did you ever encounter any of those guys?
I only encountered 2 mob guys, one at Rochester and then one in Colorado at the camp. The one in Rochester, somebody pointed him out to me. I never talked to him or anything, so I didn't know him or anything. But the guy in at camp, I met him, and he eventually got plugged into our pod. So he was technically a cellie for a little while, but that was not a good situation because he we found out later, but we kind of suspected while he was in there. He got transferred there to try to get one of
Oh,
my cellies caught up in something.
damn.
Huh.
Yeah, he kept fishing for information about him,
Ooh.
and it went from like being slick about it to being like overt about it, and then like threatening about it. You know what I mean?
Damn.
Almost like a total entrapment thing. Like I got this thing going on, and
That's fucked.
that's like it's almost like the Mr. Big thing that the
Right.
Canadian police do a lot of,
Yeah.
except this is with an actual mob guy. Wow, that's crazy. But
Yeah,
your guys were smart enough to kind of see through it, though.
yeah. The guy who he was trying to set up knew something was up, and he was like, try to avoid him at all costs. You know what I mean? Stay out
Yeah.
of the room. Be somewhere else as often as possible. And it made the whole thing really uncomfortable because it was
That
a lot
would be awkward as fuck.
of tension in our room. So one person could throw off the whole vibe. Like,
Sure.
man,
Oh yeah.
it's cool. Everything was cool before he got there. And he was first because, this mob guy and, you know, he had all these good mob stories to tell. Like, whoa, that's cool, you know. But then once that stopped and he started like working his plan to set this guy up, then it just got weird, and then it got uncomfortable, then it got stressful, and then it was just tension, you know, like, God, I hope this ends soon. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know what's crazy is it's almost like we're kids that are watching this. No, I shouldn't say kids, but young adults who watch this, who are criminals or aspiring criminals,
which we don't recommend.
Hell no. But God, if you're gonna do something, do federal.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you have a better chance of coming home alive, not in a box. You know, you're not being forced to cover yourself in swastikas and proclaim your fucking self as supreme.
Right. You don't have to join a gang to survive.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, and the thing is like, I feel like most guys in there are kind of like, okay, I know the deal. I know what's going down, because the second you get indicted federally, isn't there just they have a crazy percentage rate of conviction?
Right.
97.
Like, 97.
Yeah, they're not going to try to go after some Fed case unless they've got.
Yeah, once you get indicted,
yeah,
you're
going to do some time.
You're going to lose your case. You're going to go to prison or something.
Right.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of like, I don't really know what constitutes like a federal crime in some instances, meaning I know that some murders are considered a federal crime, capital crime, whatever.
Yeah.
I guess that's just like the severity of it. Or if it's part of like, say, a RICO thing, maybe.
Yeah.
Is that usually what it is? Is it's part of what's making the difference to where it's federal, aside from like crossing state lines or, you know, doing stuff with money?
Well, you're right about the RICO stuff. But also, like, anytime you cross state lines or commit a crime that crosses state lines, becomes federal, or you use an electronic device, another state or something, it becomes federal. You know, there's so many little details that can make a case, a crime federal. You know what I mean? But those are the main ones, I would say. You know?
Yeah, like a dude that just got picked up for having a brothel over here right in Elizabeth City, like literally right in the middle of town, at his house. The case that's going on with that is that they think that it would have just been like, you know, being arrested for like solicitation and like promoting prostitution and this, that,
basically being a pimp.
Yeah, but he had chicks that were from other states there, and they had supposedly went to other states too, so he's probably getting federal sex trafficking charges.
Yeah, that sounds most likely the case.
Yeah.
Did you guys know, aside from guys just telling you, did you kind of know what everyone was in for? Like, in other words, I think you know where I'm going with this. Did you know if somebody was a chomo? Did you know if somebody was a sex offender and things like that?
Well, now
federal
not, because like, first of all, like, you hear from other inmates or convicts what that guy is in for. So usually someone will tell you, but you know, if you have your own suspicions, you don't want to ask the guy in question, and you probably shouldn't ask anybody else either, unless you're like in tight with that person already, because it's bad etiquette to ask what somebody else is in for.
Yeah, for sure.
So what you do, if you want to know, is you write a letter to your people on the outside, have them Google the guy,
right,
and then send you a letter telling you what he did. So you'll always find out, you know. So there's no point if somebody demands your paperwork, because there's guys that can do that because no one's going to mess with them for whatever reason. If that guy demands your paperwork and you are some type of pedophile, you're in big trouble now, because he's going to find out anyway.
Either way, right.
So you will have guys doing like paperwork checks and stuff in like extreme situations. But that's another thing that dude talks about, is he's like, yeah, you know, and his wasn't his was probably around the time of Adams, maybe a little before. But he's like, yeah, as soon as you step in, it's like they're looking at you got to show them your jacket or whatever. You got to show them your paperwork. And I'm just like, I don't know, man. I got a lot of friends in prison.
Right.
A lot of friends that have been to prison. I've never heard that. Like you said, people know, But it's not like, okay, here, sir, here's my paperwork, you know.
Right. Or they find out.
I mean, and usually, if they're asking, they already suspect something. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not just something that happens routinely. Like I never asked my paperwork. Nobody asked for it. Now, when I took the RDAP class, you have to basically be an open book to get rehabilitated.
Mm-hmm.
We had to tell everyone in the class about our lives, our crimes, our families, all that stuff, and our cases, everything. So in that treatment program, everyone's coming clean already anyway. But out in the general population where people don't take that class, that's where that stuff pops up sometimes, like people demanding your paperwork, or people asking about your paperwork or something like that. But it's not like an automatic thing. Like never happened to me.
Didn't think so.
It's another one of those myths,
Yeah, like as far as your situation goes, a lot of the stuff that you did, it seems like a lot of it was online, a lot of it, like you said, just like using technology. But I remember that you were kind of one of the first and only guys I knew who seemed like you made almost a living off of like domain names at one point. You were just buying and selling the shit out of domain names. Any like nasty combination of words that you could come up with, you own that shit. When did you get into that? Like it seemed like a pretty lucrative thing if you timed it right.
Yeah, I got in on that at the right time. That would have been the late 90s, early 2000s. So right up.
So that was a good time.
Yeah, I did that right up until like around I probably stopped doing it shortly after Extreme Kidnapping. So like 2002, 2003. I don't really remember doing it much after that. But before that, I was buying up domain names, like, because I'm kind of a wordsmith and I like words. So I come up with a lot of funny names and put two words together and see if it sounds cool or something. And the niche that I got into specifically was porn domain names.
Yeah.
Coming up with the craziest names. Like I won't say any of them right now, but like I was coming up with crazy funny names, and I'd buy them, and then I'd go to the porno industry websites, and I'd list what I had for sale, and porn producers and industry people would be like, "Oh, dude, that's a cool name," and I'd sell it to them. So I was doing that a lot for a couple years, and it was making decent money, so that was fun.
Do you remember what the one was you made the most money off of?
There was no like big score with that. Like I think the most money I made off a domain name was like $500,
But you're buying them for a couple bucks though, right?
Yeah, I was only paying like $6.99 for a domain name,
That's great.
Yeah.
But most of the ones that I was flipping was more like $40, $50, $60, a couple hundred here, 100 there. But I don't think I ever flipped one for more than 500. So not life-changing money, but a good side hustle.
No, it's a good hustle though. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and that's the crazy thing. It's like it seems like you've always got your hands in different things. Like I think, weren't you doing Bitcoin kind of before a lot of people too? Was that something you were early on?
I wish I could say yes. I knew about Bitcoin when it came out, and I thought about getting some, but I was like, I just had so many other things going on at the time that I was like, I just didn't feel like I had the energy to dedicate to learning how to do it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it was a lot harder to buy the stuff and move it around than it is now. Now anybody can do it, but back then, it was a little more complicated and I didn't have the time to do it. So wish.
Yeah, like you've had like the hacking thing, the extreme kidnapping, the counterfeiting thing, all of this different stuff. If you won the lotto tomorrow, had all the money in the world, and it had nothing to do with money, what thing that you've been involved in do you think that you would do just because you love it, just because you want to grow it and make it a legacy, whatever the reason is?
Well, it wouldn't be none of the stuff that I've done in the past.
No?
Something new, huh?
I wouldn't. I'm done. I'm done with extreme kidnapping. I'm selling it now.
Damn, I thought that's the one you'd say.
Yeah, check the link in the comments where you can.
Yeah, it's up for sale on eBay right now.
Yeah, she thought you'd jump right in. No, dude, I want to grow extreme kidnapping.
Damn. All right, so something different.
Yeah, I'm done with that. That was then. I'm evolving. So music career that ship sailed. Crime, I don't want no part of it. Did my time, learned my lessons. If anything, I would want to do something new. Like get into like I'm into crypto now. I'm really into crypto now. So I spend a lot of time in crypto, but that's just another vehicle to make money. But I would just try to increase my independence, my freedom, extricate myself from the system as much as possible, and just like.
So you're kind of talking like go off grid.
Kind of, yeah. I'd like to buy more property and build something out there, and just have like systems in place where you don't need the electric company anymore. You don't need
that's what I
all that type of stuff. Just become more
self-sustainable,
dependent. So
be a full-time RVer, dude.
I've thought about it.
Now, I mean, you have a piece of land somewhere you can go back to when you want to, but I'm talking like a big, nice RV that's like a fucking home. Like that's kind of nice. What we want to do. And just
that'd be cool.
Yeah, wherever you wake up is your home that day. Like, I was selling products for those in Michigan, and I got to know all those people. And they're huge communities. Like their kids are still in sports and shit, even though the other kids that they play against in the sports live like 200 miles away. Like they meet up, they do it, so it's not as though you have to be completely separate from society, but you can be when you want to be.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what draws me to it. So yeah, that's interesting, is that you would like really be working towards essentially not a job, a position, something you do as a passion, but it'd be simply to live, be able to sustain yourself and enjoy the rest of your life without all of the crap that we complain about all the time, basically.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people want.
So he has a libertarian dream is what he has. That's basically what it is. Yeah, that's interesting. I thought you'd want to see me with the extreme kidnapping thing. I just think it was such a cool idea. And I mean, when you went on Howard Stern, that was like the holy grail of press, dude. Like either you were some freak or you were somebody big. Like there was no in between there. Like, and it's just kind of like, damn, getting to that pinnacle. I don't know, man. Like I wish I could buy it, is what I'm saying. Like I'd love to see that shit be a household name.
Yeah.
Even right now, I signed another production deal for a producer that's shopping EK around for a reality show. But like for me, like I've been down that path so many times, I'm not holding my breath. I've been for sale. You know what I mean? So I told the guy, I was like, hey, if it sells before you get a deal, it sells. I don't care which one happens first. I'm just over it. It's been 20 years, man.
Yeah, it is a long time. It's a long time for anything, honestly. You wanted to ask him something about the dark web, like if he had any.
I don't remember what exactly it was that I wanted to ask about that. I guess it interests me because it's one of those things that only certain people supposedly go on or whatever. I know there's like all kinds of different reasons, obviously, for people to use the dark net. I'm sure there's a ton of people in the world who are like curious about that. What is your experience, with the dark web and being on it, and for what reasons?
Well, personally, I've never accessed the dark web. I've never got
it. Oh, really? Okay.
I thought about it, and I had opportunities.
Yeah.
To do it. Because I had colleagues that could have showed me easily how to do it, but I just didn't want to do it because
I don't blame
you. Like generally speaking, if you're going there to do something
pretty bad
or blatantly illegal, and so there's a lot of entrapment going on there too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
a federal felony is not going to be a good look for me. If if I get shit on the dark web. So I just generally stay away from it at all costs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's probably wise. Definitely
Yeah,
wise.
just being that you did a lot of stuff that's technology based, honestly, I just figured you had some experience there. And I know you kind of you were kind of like a big supporter of Anonymous and the WikiLeaks stuff and all of that, right? Oh, we have a current event happening that Trump believes he's going to be arrested Tuesday and called for protests. You see that?
I saw that.
Do you think he's actually going to get arrested?
I mean, I think so. I think
it could happen.
Precedent setting. If it happens, it'll be precedent setting. It'll change a lot of things going forward. I don't think it's a good idea. I think it's a bad move.
I hope it doesn't happen.
I think I mean, if he's been indicted, he's going to get arrested. Now, he'll get out same day, I'm sure. But this is politically motivated, obviously.
Oh, yeah,
oh hell yeah.
Sure.
I mean, like, they're trying to say about the Stormy Daniels payoff.
Yeah, the porn
Bill
star.
Clinton paid off Paula Jones like $800,000.
While he was in office. This was actually prior to Trump being in office.
Yeah, nobody batted an eyelash for that. But this, okay, it's obviously politically motivated. It's just
they don't bat an eyelash for
part of a witch hunt, you know. They're trying to prevent him from running again.
Right, exactly.
I mean, in all seriousness, there's a protest within 100 miles I'm going.
Oh yeah, they would be here. I'm sure people would be down for it.
I've never seen such abuse every governmental system.
Yeah.
That I've seen in just the last 2 years or so. It's unbelievable.
Unbelievably sickening. But we let these freaking people do all these horrible things with.
Yeah, that's mind-boggling.
And you let he gets locked up.
Let it go.
That looks really bad for the entire right voting population.
Yeah, that's terrible.
And it'll probably make some people who are a part of our side of things
be like,
go the other way.
You know, exactly.
Like, oh yeah, my crazy leftist friends were actually right. Look at this guy; he's a criminal.
Yeah, they're doing it.
And it's like, yeah, prior to being president, he tried to give a chick some shut the fuck up money. Is basically what he did, which is what every guy who commits adultery on the planet does in one way or another.
Yeah.
You know, here's a fucking car. Here's a, you know what I mean? Like whatever it is that you want, just leave me alone. I'm not leaving my wife. You know, that sort of thing.
I mean, all those guys do that.
They all do, but see, it's very selective in which ones actually face any consequences.
Always.
Like Adam said, if he's indicted, he will be arrested.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I don't know what a conviction in that situation means. I don't think he could run for president.
No. Mm-mm.
He wouldn't be able to run for president, but also like it begs the question, like, if he got any type of time, where would the Secret Service be in that situation?
Right.
That's interesting.
Jeez, I didn't even think about that.
I'm gonna go get locked up so I can be Trump Selly. It sounds like I can handle federal prison. I think I can.
You'd be fine, Mike. You'd be fine.
No, dude, I can't deal with jail, bro. Like, seriously, that was one of my questions for you. Is like,
you can't be confined.
No, dude, I can't deal with confinement. I fucking freak out. And
I've done more time than him.
Yeah, like, I mean, granted, I've been, you know, under the gun where it's like I was facing decades in prison if I didn't rat, and I didn't rat.
Right.
I was just like, well, this is how it's gonna go, but I know I'm gonna lose my fucking mind in there and probably kill myself. But you know, I'm not gonna do some.
I mean, God,
I do adapt.
God, like, I hope to God this never happens someday, because you know, for any reason, Jesus. But I think you would adapt after a while.
I would. I like to work out. I like to fight.
Everyone thinks that they can, so they have to. You know?
I like to write. I mean, you know, there's lots of things in there that I like to do.
It wouldn't be fun, but you get through it.
Yeah, I like to talk to interesting people. If I had a little fucking camera or something, like, I could still do that. No, I know that it could work, and you know. But how did you? It sounded like when we today too, but when we first talked about it, then when you were looking at your prison time, yeah, you were scared at first, but it sounded like you knew you'd be able to a little while. Like, how did are you just pretty good at occupying your mind, or like what?
How are you thinking?
Yeah, how did you? how did you deal with that?
Well, like I said, before I went in, I did a lot of research and stuff. So I had an idea
Mm-hmm.
I was going to do inside and how to do my time essentially. But once you get there, it's still, all the research helps a little bit, but like it's still a shock to your system. It's like
That's overwhelming, I'm sure.
so I still had to cope. I still had to cope. And a lot of the things that I thought were going to, because of my research, just didn't really apply. So I still had to find ways to make it work mentally, emotionally, psychologically. And there's like a big, coping curve. And in the beginning, it's like really hard because it's so oppressive from what you're used to, and it's so dreary and just depressing. You know what I mean? And I was really depressed the first couple months because I wasn't prepared for that aspect of it. What not to do, who not to talk to, what not to say. I had covered all the physical bases, but I hadn't thought about my mental.
Yeah, like the internal stuff.
Yeah,
like
my mental health. Yeah, my mental
I
health.
guess so you
So
don't know till you get there.
It's it was a lot to deal with, and it was very, very depressing. I actually lost like I think 15 pounds that first prison I went to because I wasn't eating hardly at all.
just nerves, basically,
just nerves, anxiety, depression. Now by the time I got to camp, I chilled out. I figured everything out essentially. Depression started lifting, and I finally started seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. But when you first 2 years sounds like a long time. You know what I mean? You're like, oh my God, I'm gonna be in here for 2 years. It just doesn't seem possible.
Like I gotta pass 730 days.
Right.
Like I'm a fucking nerd with numbers. I would figure out how many hours that is and how many minutes, and I'd be like, oh, I just now finished 0.00001% of my time. I'm doing good. That's even on an assembly line, I couldn't handle it. It's like time moved too slow. Do you remember a turning point? Like, was it like a hobby or just a frame of mind or a religious thing or
resigning
something that like
situation, I guess,
clicked and made it?
Well, for me, like everyone gets a routine in prison. You're either a weight guy, a reading guy, or you're one of those guys that still is doing street stuff in prison. In other words, you're not trying to rehabilitate. You know what I mean? You're still gambling, you're still dealing drugs, you're still fighting, you're still doing all that stuff. You know what I mean? So you're in one of those three camps. So I was in the reading camp. A lot of the federal prisons have fantastic libraries, believe it or not. And I had books out all the time. I read so many books. And when you're occupying your mind and you're in a good book, time goes by faster. Your day goes by.
For sure.
So,
especially if it can kind of take you to that place, you know?
Yeah.
So, think about how much time we passed doing almost nothing as kids. I mean, nowadays they're overstimulated, but
I only did 8 months in jail, and reading is what saved me because it's the the only thing I could do to just.
For me, it was writing. Actually writing. Like if you gave me some notepads and pencils and shit, like I was okay. I come out with a book. Actually, the book I'm trying to finish, I wrote in jail when I was fucking 19 years old. Well, I didn't have a mature, good ending to it. It was entertaining, like what a good gangster film would be, but now it's meaningful. Like I just never finished the damn thing, but I wrote, over 200 pages by hand, and that was on top of, I did like the county jail version of what you said your boy did. I would draw the flowers and shit on the envelopes for guys. And I would write like pedos, like I hope his woman or ex doesn't see
poems.
I would write the poems to his woman for him.
I always knew my ex never wrote the poems that
I was the fucking poet. I'm like,
dude,
you got 6 candy bars, bro? Like, I'll write whatever you want to do. It's like, how is this so easy? Like, that's how dude, it's the same thing with like county jail, what you're describing. Like, I was straight up suicidal, like I was also in a position where I didn't know how long I was going to be there. So that fucks with you. You don't know how much time you have to pass. But I was losing my mind for like the first several weeks. And then finally I was just like, fuck it. If I'm going to have to do this, I'm going to do it my way. I can either be like it was two extremes. I can either be a complete bitch that's fucking curled up in a corner and wants to kill himself, or I can be a fucking monster. And by monster, I don't mean that I was like preying on people, but I was like, if somebody stole something from somebody, I was the one doing the blanket party. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was the one like sticking up for people. So I was just like, all right, I can do that. That'll occupy my time with the writing and, all of that kind of shit. With stupid shit. We had a Monopoly board, dude. And, there's a lot of
Monopoly.
Cheating. Yeah, dude, there's a lot of cheating, You'd get a little bit of money, you'd get some candy, you'd get whatever, you'd talk shit, and then the day would pass. Yeah, like first place I was in though was basically like a high security prison. There's none of that socializing shit. You can't do it.
Yeah.
You can't even, if you're sitting, you're actually, it sounds like it would be good that you're not in your cell hardly at all. But the problem is you can't even like put your head on your hand.
Yeah.
Like you can't talk above this volume right here to another inmate. You can't get close to somebody. You can't, it's very strange. And if anybody breaks one of these little tiny rules, they actually come in with the gas. And it becomes this big thing. So,
Jesus.
Dude, that place is fucking crazy, man. Like, lack of stimulation. It was almost like being in solitary confinement. That there would end my life. Solitary, can't do it. That's funny, because I was going to ask you what you maybe knew about, like, going off grid. And it's funny that's actually, a pseudo, almost like a goal for you. And we've talked about, this will just be for me because I'm curious. I'm always going back and forth trying to find my own answers to this. And I have mine, but it's extreme and I don't know if it would work. We talk a lot about, obviously, everything that's wrong in the country right now, the direction it's headed, how oppressive it is on the people, how just, honestly, it's lunacy in a lot of instances. What do you think would change it? Let's get Mr. Skrill's input on what would save this nation. Like, honestly, in all seriousness, though, like,
first of all, term limits is absolutely essential for Congress. Yeah. They need to audit the Fed. They need to audit Fort Knox. They need to arrest every rhino and Democrat criminal, because the Democrats are communists now. They're not even trying to hide it anymore.
No, Kamala's even open about it.
Yeah.
They are a criminal organization. They should RICO them and scoop up the rhinos as well. From there, they need to start repealing a lot of these federal laws, because like they literally have a federal register that just keeps adding new laws like all the time. Nobody gets to hear what they are. They just find out someday when they're on the wrong side of one.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, but that right there, and then they have to institute some kind of real trustworthy elections, because the whole system is rigged.
Oh, but you can't say that there's any fraud in the election, dude. Come on.
Oh, I know. You can't say that.
It's impossible.
That's like treason to say that.
Yeah, I mean,
God forbid you ask to say, hey, let me see how this is done. Dude, how dare you?
Yeah. Block up these windows. You can't look inside.
He has actual answers for
Yeah, no.
I mean, I don't see the arrests ever happening because
wish, though.
I feel like these guys are too intertwined. Like,
great.
With lobbyists and big this, big that, your government's too tied in with industry.
Yeah.
Then the rhinos, the Democrat, like they're all, they all have dirt on each other. They all have dirty dealings. Even some of the guys that we actually like and think that can make a difference.
Yeah.
There's too much corruption where it's almost, I don't know if you've ever had like a fishing line tangled in like 500 ways and you just have to say, fuck it, cut it, throw it in the water and restring,
That's probably what needs to happen, because all these changes, like the stuff I just mentioned, no one's going to go for it. It's not going to happen because the system, the current system, it is corrupt. It's broken corrupt, but too many people are profiting from it and that gravy train going, because a new system, like a true constitutional republic would eliminate most of that stuff. So all these old systems need to end completely. We need to have brand new systems, not revamped old systems. We need a new system. Unfortunately, the new system they are planning for the Great Reset, if you will, with the World Economic Forum leading the charge, is not a better system. It's a worse system than what we get now. It's even worse.
Yeah.
So what we need to do is resist that and work on smaller communities, like crypto is, with the blockchain and all that, that's a way to bank outside the system, be your own banker, essentially, and opt out of all the systems that you can and just live as free as you can. Because right now, that's really the only solution for people like us is opt out of the current systems, create systems that we can use with our peers, whether it be crypto or
we had a whole episode about that, where like I was basically proposing a shadow society. I was reminded of how the country started in the first place, where our founding fathers were basically kind of at night. They had their own bars, they had their own meeting places, all of these things, and they were planning. In the meanwhile, they were stealing weapons, they were doing all this and that. But the fact of the matter is their money was being spent amongst each other, and eventually it became a thing that was strong enough and unified enough to actually overthrow a current system. So I'm just kind of like, well, we could do that. I'll only bank with guys who are part of this, or I'll like Gab.
Yeah, Gab.
They send me emails, and I'm behind on reading this stuff, but they call it something else. I don't know, it's Counter Society or whatever. But basically, a lot of guys have gotten together. They've got like independent banks, independent supply lines, things like that. So what you're saying is doable. I feel like for some reason, different little groups of people do it, and for some reason don't come together and build something.
Yeah.
Because I'll hear about this one system over here, and I'll directly speak to somebody in this system over there, and they've never heard of the other one. And I'm just kind of like, how's that even possible? But yeah,
that
like
means it's working though. I mean, for
yeah, kind of. It's secretive. It's like Fight Club. Yeah. But no, I mean, that is kind of what we need, I think, is that kind of school union or people within the school union. I think a lot of it, if somehow we can have our own educational system, that's important.
The education system is so broken right now.
It's toast.
That's where all of this comes from.
Yeah, it's toast.
It's college campuses like in the 70s. Like I've done a lot of research on where this woke shit and all of this comes from. And it's actually just insulting to find out the roots of all of it. But I think you're right. I think you're right that there has to be kind of a shadow society, find a way to live outside of this thing, or
Well, yeah.
It's right now it's like the only way, because the current system, they're not going to change.
It's not going anywhere.
No.
Yeah.
That they're planning for us by 2030 is absolutely worse.
It's frightening.
It's terrifying. Yes.
Than what we know now. So the only way is to extricate yourself from these systems and create our own smaller communities. A lot of people are actually just moving to other countries like Panama, Belize, Chile, places where
Costa Rica,
where the cost of living is cheaper and our money goes much further.
Right.
There's already Americans there and forming their own communities, and there's a lot of places that are very attractive right now in the Caribbean and South America, and a lot of
read about that in the future, that at one point a large percentage, and wow, this is almost similar to how the United States started, a large percentage of people who are fed up with the way America was doing things went to such and such country, and that's where you get this race of people. That's where you get this, that could happen. I could totally see that happening. It's tough though when, like, say your income is dependent upon where you live. I mean, a lot of people can work online and stuff like that now, but like some of us are kind of in a position where it's like, well, that doesn't work for me right at this moment. Like over time, maybe I could get there. The content creation thing can do it for some people, you know, but I think, but see, as I'm saying all this, there is a light at the end of the tunnel that all this stuff we're describing, the freedoms and whatnot, they exist in Florida right now because of one man. I don't know. Maybe people should. I mean, DeSantis has managed to do something down there where it's like companies know better than to act in certain ways. Everyone's happy what they're making, you know, against their cost of living, despite the fact that a lot of them are living in a veritable paradise, is great. Like it's better than here in Michigan. I mean,
it's definitely a lot cheaper to live down south than it is up here, up north, especially in Michigan, you know.
Oh yeah. So I mean,
cost of living is a lot cheaper. Like I lived in Louisiana for 6 years, and generally speaking, it was a lot cheaper to live down there.
Yeah, you know? For sure.
And there's no brutal winters, you know, but there's a flip side. So I wouldn't move back to Louisiana.
Man, you were in the middle of fucking nowhere in Louisiana, bro. I remember you laughing when I was like, "What city you in?" You're like, "City."
I was like, "City,"
and I was like, "All right, what town you in?" You're like, "There's not really a town."
No, it's not. We couldn't even get pizza delivered.
I guess it was a parish, which
yeah, that's
I think is like a county.
I remember before he left to go on that kidnapping thing, we were all worried because he was on probation. So he had to tell us, because he had to call the number every morning to make sure his color didn't get called to take a piss test or whatever. And we had to like, find a place down there to call and like go and take a test just in case and all this fucking bullshit. And it's like, there's nowhere around there I could go. It would take like 3 hours to drive to.
So thank God I'm not on any kind of paper anymore.
No more paper, yeah.
No more crimes. But yeah, like I do see, I don't know, man, like the only way I see that this realistic is a lot of states crash and burn, and then maybe 1 or 2 other states kind of copy what Florida's doing and do really well. And just by common sense, people jump aboard and say, hey, I like the fact that they live well without 17 homeless people in front of their house and without feces like in their bushes and, you know, like, you know, without needles all over the ground. Whatever, like they're starting to see it now. A lot of people are moving from California, but what's funny is you get complaints like here now and stuff because people are like, yeah, they're fleeing California, so you think they're allies of ours, but they come here and still spread that same liberal bullshit.
Yeah,
and I'm like, really? Like it was that bad, and you still like come here and spread it?
Yeah, no shit.
Like, oh, it's a little different here, so maybe it'll be different. Like I'm just like totally fed up with it, and like I don't know, man. Like maybe we'll put our heads together and find the right plan of escape where we escape it, but we're not totally escaped. Like, you know, or we could still take advantage of what this country has to offer, but you know, have our freedom, which was the original intent. I would say, have you ever watched I think it was called Man in the High Castle?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I started watching it, yeah.
Did like I don't know if you got to the part where it shows that the East Coast is basically this is like, you know, World War II ended the other way. East Coast is Nazis, West Coast is the Japanese, but there's this slice in between where people that refuse to be a part of either part, and it's like technically they're criminals by not choosing a side or being a part of it, but they're kind of left alone.
Yeah, get picked up.
Yeah, and they live in this like neutral section. And I'm looking at that section and I'm going, it's funny because these are the other states that are kind of like, except for like Colorado for the most part. I'm like, these places are kind of free. Like they're kind of on point with this. Like this slice of the country could be, if you're going to do it on this land, that could be that settlement place. But I remember watching that going, man, that would be amazing. Because it's like, okay, none of them were rich. None of them were living this like glamorous lifestyle. It was almost like they were just living in these dusty towns that were stops along the way for other people. But I'm okay with that.
As long as you're
totally fine with that. Like I don't need any of the. It's like I don't need any of the certain amenities supposedly the places have. No. I don't. Let me be outdoors. Let me have a gym.
Let me have food, you know, a place to keep myself clean, place to be with
place
kids.
To counterfeit my money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like I think he pretty much answered everything that I mean, it's just like amazing that since like day one of being an adult, you've been like, I'm going to do all of these things that are outside of what I'm supposed to do. And it's like, I don't know if that's the way you're approaching it on purpose, but that's kind of what it was. So somewhere, oh, that's what I wanted to ask. It has to do with that real quick. Was there like a political belief in your home that kind of drove the way that you look at things? Like, no?
No, my parents were not very political. I never noticed it. And then later on, my parents got divorced, and then my stepmom and my dad were not political at all. If they were, it was back in like the 70s or 80s when they probably talked about it more, but I was a kid, so I didn't pay attention to that stuff.
Right.
When I was in high school, we never heard anything about politics from our parents. So there was none of that. We weren't a political household, and I didn't get into politics until I started getting interested in it in my mid 20s. But I leaned more towards, like learning about certain systems and societies and things like the Council on Foreign Relations and the Trilateral Commission and, things like that. Because nobody ever talked about that stuff. So I was like, whoa, all these weird organizations exist and they're quasi-governmental,
Yeah.
So what got me on the path. And then from there, in my later 30s and 40s is when I actually really got interested in politics. But yeah, not until later in life.
No, that actually makes sense. So when you start looking into that stuff, you go, wow, there's a lot of stuff going on that affects everyone's lives that they know nothing about.
Right.
And I know 5% of it, and people treat me like I'm some kind of genius that I know that. It's like, no, dude, there's a lot more to know. And it's funny because I got into governmental stuff based on like essentially like conspiracy theory.
Yeah, same.
But it ended up being reality, not conspiracy theory. It ended up being conspiracy reality.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm like, damn, like the whole world is different from what I thought it was. To be honest, it's
a hard realization.
It's disheartening. Like seriously, it screws with you a little bit. And I feel like, when I first started learning that, it pushed me a little more toward like certain criminal behavior and stuff like that, and independent business ownership, because I just wanted to be away from all of that. Like I just wanted to do my own thing. Like if I didn't end up having kids, I'm the type that would have been a fucking biker.
Yeah, probably would have been.
Not to like do crystal meth and whatnot, but like just be on the road.
The lifestyle.
I think we pretty much asked everything. I had like 2 more questions, but I think that they would like the answer would take up a lot of time.
Yeah,
and I don't want it to just get like cut off.
Right. Yeah. Probably
save it for another episode or something.
Yeah, man. We're not like like I said, we're stockpiling shit. God, the editing is what takes time, but I want to put this out in a way to where it gets eyeballs on people's stories and really entertains people, man. Like that's all there is to it. They can either watch surface mainstream media bullshit that essentially programs them.
A lot of people are leaning towards not watching that shit anymore anyways.
Right.
They're finding like their favorite podcasters and their this and that, and they're going to that for their news. So I think that's
and if you want
news, entertainment too,
like Joe Rogan says, find a journalist you like.
Right.
Don't go for a network, any of that stuff. None of them are going to be, just find one guy that you trust.
I mean, half the time, if I'm looking for something, to watch, even just as like an entertainment or even educational or whatever, I used to always be on, something like Discovery Plus, the ID channel or whatever. Most of the time I'm on fucking YouTube now. Because I'm just looking for certain things, certain people,
but some of that certain stuff you're not going to be allowed to see.
Well, yeah, some of it you got to go on Burrow for.
Burrow, Rumble, and Adam was hipping me to the evils of Obama and Gates and shit, fucking like 13 years ago.
Yeah,
I remember he asked me, "What do you think of Obama?" I was like, I don't know. He's well spoken. I read one of his books, man. I don't know. I think he means well. And he's like, no. And And now I look back and I'm like, this guy ruined the country, like quite literally ruined the country.
He's the president right now. Joe Biden's.
Yeah, he is kind of the president right now.
Oh, he is.
But
Joe Biden's just there.
But yeah, like
Obama laid the groundwork for all this, though. I mean, that was his job, was to lay the groundwork for everything we're seeing now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's like Hollywood. They needed a person of color to do it. He was a little younger, that had a lot of charisma.
Yeah, it was this huge ordeal.
Very good speaker.
Yeah.
And writer. I'll give him that.
To like on the surface level, if you don't know anything, it's like, oh, this guy seems all right. That's how all cult leaders are.
Yeah, that's how all cult leaders are, and that's how all psychopaths are.
Yeah.
They have that surface charm.
Charismatic.
If you met Obama, you'd probably think he's the coolest guy on the planet, man. Like, seriously, you'd be smoking weed with him, playing basketball. He'd be the greatest guy ever. Then you find out that his wife is actually a husband, and there's all kinds of weird shit going on there.
A lot of weird shit.
She's got a schlong.
All right, yeah.
I'm just getting silly now, but I think we covered it all, man. I think I got some good segments in there and stuff like that. And I actually learned some things. There's some details there that I didn't know that are pretty cool.
Yeah. Definitely
pretty cool. I don't know, like backstory to your shit, where it's like
that makes it more interesting.
Like I'm not weird, but I'm saying that normally when you hear about guys that you see them on a podcast, they committed some crime, whatever, they went on to do this or that, they're like, my dad used to put cigars out on me as a baby.
Right.
Is that kind of thing. And it's like, that may not even be true. It's just, trauma or whatever. But what are you up to these days as far as what you're doing, like professionally or whatever? I know you mentioned, getting back into like cybersecurity.
Yeah. Learning some stuff about that, mostly in a consulting capacity. I still do the TV consulting stuff, which is like I help people who have TV show ideas or have a TV show in development, and I do consulting for that. So I help them, dispel any myths, help them format it, develop it, sizzle reels, treatments, all that type of stuff. And then if something's like really good and up to par, I can even pitch it for them. So I do that. I do some security consulting with a guy that I took the K&R course with back in 2009. I still work with him sometimes, doing some like crime consulting and stuff like that, security consulting. So a lot of different consulting. I was doing a little bit of BOP consulting for people that are on their way into prison, but I didn't develop it enough. I didn't spend enough time doing it. So the foothold that I got in that, I kind of like.
But all those guys out there that want a TV show on air, definitely contact Adam Thick. He'll get your TV show on.
We'll see. We'll try.
No, I'm bullshit. I don't think you want people hitting you up like that.
No.
Get you a record deal too, so send your mixtapes. Send your SoundCloud links.
No. Do that.
Yeah, especially like a trap rapper, or that'd be great. A drill rapper. Yeah, definitely.
Oh no! Don't torture me like that, Mike.
Dude, wait, real quick. We tortured somebody with music before. What did we play over and over again for somebody?
Well, we've done that a lot of times actually, but the one that just pops into my mind is the guy from GQ magazine, Drew McGarry. We kidnapped him, and I had Annie Lennox on repeat, that Dreams song.
Oh my god.
Sweet Dreams.
Oh, that stupid fucking song is gonna be stuck in my head now, damn it.
Oh, and we played it for hours and hours.
No.
Dude, we played that one that was like, "They're coming to take me away." Do you remember that song? It was like, "They're coming to take me away." Haha, they're coming to take me away. Hee hee. Yeah.
What did we play that? What did we play that for though?
It was at Chris's house, and there was another one that we played over and over again. It was like an annoying pop song. Like,
yeah, I did a couple.
But yeah, we did that. They're Coming to Take Me Away one. It's like the most annoying song ever made in the history of the world.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. And I was wondering, did you get that idea from like, there was that story that I think it was either Guantanamo or in Iraq that they did that.
Yeah.
They played like Hit Me Baby One More Time for like 36 hours straight. And I think dude was finally like, all right, talk.
Yeah, that's exactly where I got the idea, because I read those articles about that, and then I had talked to that security guy I told you about, and he's like, oh yeah, he elaborated on it a little bit more, and it's like, we got to do that. It's gonna be a good psychological tactic, to really mess with people,
It is, man. Like sensory torture is like that would.
Doing the bright light and then freaking blasting like death metal.
I know sometimes we would just do like really heavy metal type of shit. But I mean, sometimes it was real specific and really annoying to where I'm just like, dude, I understand that like we're doing this to them, but I can hear it too. Like this isn't the biggest house in the world. Like I can hear it through the vent. I remember we like cranked up a TV or something just to not like hear that bullshit, just so we didn't have to deal with it. Yeah, I guess we'll let you ride now, man. I appreciate you sitting with us so long and laying your whole story out.
Yeah, no problem, man.
And being 100% with it, it's like Adam's not here. Whatever, exaggerating, clout chasing,
it's not for a purpose of being like, look at me, I'm that guy.
Right. It's like there are guys legitimate, and more power to them if that's what they want to do.
I mean,
but it's fucking corny.
When I think of that, I'm like, more power to them if that's what they want to do, if they're telling the truth. It's bad enough when they're telling the truth, acting that way, but like when they're not and they're exaggerating, they're elaborating on bullshit that didn't happen, like that one dude, that fucking drives me crazy.
Yeah, see, it's not even me with some criminal code or anything like that. My problem is that I've always, and this is funny, like when you look at it in 2023, I've always held real journalism in high regard.
Yes, for sure.
And the written word when it's based on fact and all of that.
Absolutely.
So it's an insult to the audience, the producers, just everybody involved.
Well, it's an insult to people who've actually like gone through
such
a story too. If you're telling a story and you haven't experienced it, there's people who have. Like, fuck you for doing that.
It's just that I just find it to be kind of repulsive. It's like refreshing to hear somebody say like, no, dude, like listen, I could fucking spice my story up by saying there was a shanking every 48 minutes.
Drive-by shanking.
Now that shit's funny though.
That's
like,
crazy.
Hey, God bless everybody who got stabbed, but that shit's funny. Move quicker.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? Really?
Hit that button scooter quick.
That shit's fucking great, dude.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but yeah, like I all that shit's genuine and very interesting.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. I expected him to be like, I want to go solve this weird puzzle or problem. That would be my goal if I had $1 billion. And he's like, nah, man, I just want to get the fuck out of here.
And I respect that. Yeah.
That's great. I also learned that Adam's an old man. Dude, I seriously thought we were like right around the same age. Bro. That's hilarious.
You're like you were born in the 70s?
Like that was crazy. Well, I figured you were born like in like 78, 79. But when you said like early 70s, I'm like, word? So did you talk jive? Like did you like break dance and shit? But yeah, I guess we'll let you ride. We're gonna go check on our toddler, make sure she's still alive and whatnot.
All right, man.
All right,
I'll see you guys later.
Thanks for sitting with us so long, bro.
Yeah.
All right, good night.
We really appreciate it. Thanks, man.
All right, talk soon.